Djokovic, Grand Slams and silverwares seem to have been replaced with Djokovic, Australia and controversies. Despite being the most successful player at the Australian Open, the Serb's love-hate relationship with the Slam is more glaring now than ever before. And it all started with Djokovic's feud with the whole nation, when he announced and accused that the country had poisoned him back in 2022 when he had been sent back home. And that unrest seems to have now reached the Australian media, who seem to have insulted him during the tournament. One of the broadcasters, Channel 9's presenter, Tony Jones, during his show last week, was reporting about the chants Djokovic's fans were singing, and during that coverage, Jones said this.
Novak, he's overrated. Novak has been. Novak, kick him out. Boy, I'm glad they can't hear me. Anyway, let's get on to the tennis.
And while the broadcaster called it a joke, something he cracked in good spirit, it didn't take long for matters to escalate, even resulting in severe backlash online and support for the Serb. The matter, of course, didn't end there. A furious Djokovic made his feelings clear about the joke over the weekend. The 37-year-old refused to do a routine on-court interview after beating Jiří Lehečka in the fourth round. He just thanked the crowd and then walked off. Many, of course, were left confused as to why he refused to give Jim Courier, who was the interviewer there, an interview right after the game. But the 10-time Australian Open champion took to X right after to give his side of the story.
2 days ago, a famous sports journalist here from Australia who works for a main broadcaster of Australian Open at Channel 9 decided to mock Serbian fans, and he made insulting and offensive comments towards me. So I was hoping he's going to apologize in public, which he hasn't done yet. Neither did the Channel 9. So that's the only reason why I didn't do the interview. It was, of course, not a great feeling for me, and it was quite awkward on the court. I have to stand by, my decision and hold these stands until something is done. So I leave it to Channel 9, and hopefully that situation will change for the next match. All the best.
Djokovic's clarification puts the broadcasters and the presenter under severe scrutiny. Prominent voices that include Djokovic's new friend Nick Kyrgios slammed his own country's media for their approach.
How the does this guy still have a job? It is putrid stuff. Tony Jones, you absolute flop. Chomper's mate.
What this episode has done is highlight the way Aussie media have been taunting superstars in the name of a joke or their competitive spirit. Because this isn't the first instance of Aussie media taking that added liberty to taunt sports stars. They have a bit of a history of going overboard of late. During the recently held, of course, cricket series between Australia and India, the Aussie media mocked two of India's top cricketers. It, of course, started with Virat Kohli when they called him a clown. This, of course, was a climb down from when they branded him as the king who'd landed in Aussie land. Indian captain Rohit Sharma wasn't left behind too. They called him a cry baby during the series as well. He was mocked when they put up something of this sort. And this isn't the end of it, of course. Australian media were left fuming when Indian cricketer Ravindra Jadeja didn't answer questions in English during a media interaction. A media briefing that was, by the way, mainly held for the travelling Indian journalists. So clearly, Djokovic being insulted is nothing new. Aussie media have had a history in roughing it out with star players, which is the reason why when the Serb denied speaking to the broadcasters and chose a social media platform to issue his disgruntlement and show how upset he was praised by billionaire Elon Musk. Musk calls it legacy media, but in Australia's case, that legacy seems to be restricted to mocking and trolling alone. Following the massive fallout, broadcasters were, of course, they went into damage control mode. Jones issued an apology for his action.
I was made aware that the Djokovic camp was not happy at all with those comments. I immediately contacted the Djokovic camp and issued an apology for any disrespect that Novak felt that I'd caused. And as I stand here now, I stand by that apology to Novak if he felt any disrespect, which quite clearly he does.
The statement clearly shows that the apology is just because Djokovic felt disrespected. Nowhere is there a mention of the fact that his comments were ill-thought or completely wrong and in poor spirit. Not shocking coming from somebody who felt it was just a joke in the first place. Djokovic, being Djokovic, accepted the apology and seems to have moved on, but this really raised some questions. Just because Australians are known to be feisty, any which field that they look at it, can they get away with anything under the name of competitive spirit? Because when the same is done to them, they call it being a bully. Like when Virat Kohli was called out by a female journalist for filming his family without his permission at Melbourne last month. If Virat is a bully, what does that make the Australian media then?
From breaking news to the day's biggest controversies, shedding light on the world's top headlines, detailed analysis on the stories that matter the most to you. Catch it all on Spotlight at 6 p.m. India time and 12:30 GMT, only on Firstpost.